Everywhere around the world, it's the same story. Day and night, Chavez is cultivating alliances with countries that would like to undermine U.S.'s power and position, to make the world a more dangerous place for us. Russia, China, Syria, Libya, Belarus, North Korea, all are his diplomatic ports of call. Meanwhile, Venezuela has become a port of call for the Russian Navy. And now there is talk of basing Iranian-supplied missiles in Venezuela. Sound familiar? And Chavez is making moves that look like he wants to acquire nuclear weapons. Add all that to Chavez's global weapons buying spree, including planes and submarines that have no defensive purpose. Can we doubt what he has in mind? Slinking through the shadows of diplomatic back alleys around the world with a murmured, "It's time," here, or a whispered, "Come on," there. He has been gathering a gang of thugs that, like himself, want to take down the American sheriff of what Charles Krauthammer once called the unipolar world. This is what I meant by a clear, present, and developing danger. I mentioned oil politics, giving out cheap oil to win influence and control in a country. There is someplace else he does this, right here in the United States of America. And he has an accomplice. I'm sorry to say, a low man with a great name, Joe Kennedy. President John Kennedy said, "We will pay any price, bear any burden to ensure the survival and success of liberty." It is a disgrace that a nephew of the president who spoke those magnificent words and the son of his brother and attorney general, it is a disgrace that this man is the front man in Chavez's Oil for Influence campaign here in the United States. Joe Kennedy hasn't paid any price, but he's taken one. He defends himself by saying he opposes some of what Chavez has done. So let me ask this question. When he says some, that sounds like one or two small details where he thinks Chavez is wrong. Which one or two small details? Is it Chavez's suppression of broadcasters and the press or the internet? Does he include economic policies that have created shortages in food, coffee, gasoline, electricity, and that have hit the Venezuelan poor so hard, not to mention the double-digit inflation? Do the some things include assuming dictatorial powers, or backing murderous FARC drug thugs, or throwing DEA agents out of the country, or making Venezuela an accomplice in the global drug trade, or working to undermine democracy in so many nations of this hemisphere, including on our southern border, or aiding and abetting the transit of terrorists, or acquiring tanks, jets, submarines, missiles, and bombs far beyond any defensive need? Which one of these two small things make up the some things that Mr. Kennedy opposes? You know, as you heard from the introduction, I come from a baseball family with a deep baseball heritage. So I take it personally, the insult to America's greatest game, that the Chavez-controlled company that Joe Kennedy shrills for, Citgo, has up in Joe's hometown, Boston. I'm talking about the giant Citgo sign that looms over the hallowed green monster in Boston's Fenway Park. If Joe Kennedy wants to show he is really concerned about some things that Chavez is doing, he can see to it that the Boston Citgo sign is turned off. He can see to it that Fenway Park's Citgo sign is covered up until freedom and democracy return to Venezuela. And by the way, it wouldn't bother me if everyone in this audience and everyone listening didn't purchase their gas from Citgo. Transforming Venezuela into an oil-rich Cuba is what Chavez has been doing, exporting his so-called Bolivarian revolution and undermining U.S. security are what he is doing. What should we do? Here's a partial list. Last year, and again this year, I have called on Secretary of State Clinton to put Venezuela on our state sponsor of terrorism list. This should be done now. Venezuela is the third largest supplier of oil to us, after Canada and Saudi Arabia. In other words, our money is financing Chavez's war against us. We should do all we can to encourage an increase in Canadian supply. We should open up domestic drilling. We should open up domestic drilling throughout the United States and in our waters. And then we should put a halt to buying Chavez's oil. By the way, here's an interesting fact. Because of the high sulfur content, Venezuela's oil is not in big demand on the global markets. If we don't buy it, Chavez can't sell it. Most of it anyway. So let's not buy it. Along with cutting off purchases of their petroleum, we should impose a full-scale economic embargo on the country now. Chavez wants to work as one with Ahmadinejad. We ought to treat him the way we treat Ahmadinejad. No more happy handshakes at world conferences. No ignoring the menace of what Chavez has called the Iranian-Venezuelan axis of unity. Then, too, we should get serious about communications to the people of Latin America. We should launch an aggressive campaign to tell the people of that region that we support them, their democracies, their struggle to improve their lives, and their fight for freedom. Our story is the story that Latin Americans want to hear, not Hugo Chavez's story, and it's time we told it. It's time to be proud to be an American, a defender of freedom. We should let those know that we stand with them. So the Congress should pass the Panama and Colombia Free Trade Agreements early this year. And when Latin Americans stand up for their constitutional processes and against Chavez-style tactics, as happened in Honduras, American diplomats should stand with them. When there is a clear and present danger rising, we should meet it, not ignore it. And when heroes for freedom put themselves on the line, heroes like former Colombian President Uribe, we should support them in every way we can. It's time we stop apologizing for America. It's time that in this hemisphere and around the world, we stand up for America and for the freedom and human dignity that America stands for. Stand against America's enemies and stand with America's friends. That is my message to you today. That is the direction we in the House will be working to move foreign relations in the next 2 years. That is what America should do, must do, and if we have anything to say about it, will do. with pride and clarity, not apologies, with determination and resolve, not deference. We will work for a foreign policy that embraces America's historic role, the friend of freedom, wherever freedom is at stake. Thank you. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless America.
What a speech. Give it up one more time. Bringing American exceptionalism to the forefront.